Good afternoon. It's Monday, January 18th, 2016 at 1 o'clock Eastern Time, and this is Admissions Live. Happy Martin Luther King Day. I'm your host, Nicole Lentini. On today's live broadcast, we're talking about social listening for admissions offices. Your prospective and admitted students are talking to and about you on social media. Are you listening? I'm excited to speak with three social media and communication professionals from Belmont, St. Joseph's, and University of New Hampshire. I'll ask them how they're managing their efforts. Looking at best practices that you can put to use today. Admissions Live is part of the Higher Ed Live network, offering viewers direct access to the best and brightest minds in education. Live webcasts allow viewers to share knowledge and participate in discussions around the most important issues in the industry. All episodes of Admissions Live are free and accessible in the video archives at higheredlive.com and in podcast form on iTunes. Today's live broadcast is made possible by Chegg Enrollment Services, connecting colleges and universities with the nearly 80% of college-bound students who are researching schools online. Chegg uses an online platform that includes more than 10 of the most popular college search sites, helping you to save over 90% when compared to the cost of traditional inquiry-generating methods. Email outreach at chegg.com to schedule a free consultation. Higher Ed Live is produced by M. Stoner, a marketing and communications firm that works with education institutions on branding strategy, web design, and more. In Higher Ed, the degree is the product. Your program pages are some of the most marketing critical on your website. If you're interested in getting M. Stoner's model to building effective program pages and spending some quality time with one of their experts, check out the link we're about to tweet where you can learn more. So without further ado, I'm excited to turn things over to our guests. I have three wonderful panelists today who are very knowledgeable about social listening, so I'm excited to have them all on, and I'm going to have them introduce themselves, especially since I'm still trying to catch up on being able to speak words this Monday. So Melissa, as a returning guest host from the past, why don't you start us off?
Sure, no problem. Hi everyone, welcome. I'm Melissa Calder. I work at St. Joseph's University in Philadelphia. I'm the Associate Director for Media and Communications in the Office of Undergraduate Enrollment there.
Fantastic, thank you. Let's go to Tyler.
Hi everybody, I'm Tyler Wentworth. I am the Senior Producer of Social Media at the University of New Hampshire. I was actually an admissions officer for 6 years before transitioning over to our Communications and Public Affairs office and a couple different institutions, but excited to chat admissions. My heart's always in admissions, so excited to chat today.
Awesome, thank you. And Logan.
Hi, I'm Logan Bishop. I'm the Social Media and Digital Marketing Specialist at Belmont University and also co-host of the Higher Ed Social Podcast. I've been in Higher Ed for 8 years. I started out in admissions, moved over to marketing. Sounds like we have some similar stories here. And I'm responsible for the strategy and oversight of all aspects of Belmont's social media presence. So, yay.
Awesome. Yay. Excited to have all three of you on here. So let's get started. And I want to remind our viewers, if you have any questions throughout the show, please feel free to ask questions using the Higher Ed Live hashtag. I'll do my best to ask questions as they come in. But let's start from the beginning. How would you define social listening? Logan, why don't you kick us off?
I knew you were going to call on me. To me, social listening is probably one of the more, I don't mean to be blunt, things about social media, of what we do. There are two things that you do that are most important when you're a social media specialist. That's listening to what people are saying and responding to those people. And of course, somewhere in there, you're generating content as well. So, you know, social listening to me is really going out, seeing what our students are saying, what our prospective students are saying, responding to that, and also sharing with Belmont's senior leadership, different departments on campus, you know, what students are thinking, what their sentiments are.
Excellent. Melissa, you got anything to add to that?
Yeah, I would just say that most of the time you're just tapping into existing conversations that are happening out there on the platforms, and you're representing your school and the brand of your school as best as possible, and it actually makes connecting with students a lot easier these days. You don't have to wait for a mail piece to go out, or you don't have to wait for them to respond to an email. You can have real-time conversations online 24/7.
It's an amazing thing. How about you, Tyler? Anything else to add?
I mean, they've really covered it, but I would just add to what Melissa said that I love the immediate feedback of the social environment from prospective, current students, alumni as well, feeding in. You really can hear what's working and what's not working, and that's one of the big parts of my job too, is to look at analytics and whatnot of all of our jobs to see what's working and engaging with the audience. So it's great to have that immediate feedback where you don't get that, like Melissa said, from a print piece that goes out, and even with the email with click-throughs and whatnot and all those spam filters. But
spam filters.
Hopefully they don't do that to us. But
if it's us, if it's us talking to them, there's definitely more trust.
Yeah.
Really.
That's very true.
More trust in an email, at least.
Yeah.
That's a really good point. I do think with social media, it tends to make a little bit more of a face behind the brand than I think emails really can allow, or any marketing pieces that go out in the mail. It really kind of puts that real person behind it, and I think that's enticing to a lot of students.
Especially if you post as a real person and not as a robot. I mean, that's one of the things that I've noticed is when you're doing those kinds of responses, it's always great to add that like personal touch to it that makes it, you know, a little more human. Maybe make that funny Star Wars reference, or, you know, make a Harry Potter joke, or, you know, just show actual empathy instead of just saying, well, to solve your problem, call the office of the registrar at 615-460 blah 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 blah. Yeah, it's definitely, you know, so much better to show some empathy, especially when you have a customer service-related issue that you're dealing with.
That's very true, and probably helps as well when you've got your own BB-8 that you can film videos on campus with, right?
Yes, he comes in handy. He's the newest member for our team. He came in at Christmas.
UNH Social needs a BB-8. That sounds awesome.
Yeah, it's I caught the videos that Logan shared online and thought that was a good catch to connect with their their Star Wars fans on social. And we're talking about how important it is on the larger kind of scope of things in the higher ed world, but we're talking in particular on Admissions Live, and so of course I want to bring to the fact that it's really, really vitally important to what we do in admissions to do social listening. And Melissa, I know you had some kind of cool data and information behind that.
Yeah, sure. So I think social listening is especially important when it comes to admissions because of your audience. Your audience is consisting of high school students, parents, and guidance counselors, and in particularly high school students, and they are online, they are on social platforms, and the market out there is competitive for schools to get in front of them, and so if you're active on social media, that's going to give you a leg up with connecting with those students. And if you look at IPED's data, that's what I was referencing, and enrollment data, you are connecting with, depending on what type of institution you're at, depends on how many students are actually going to look at your institution. So for a private nonprofit four-year school, which is what St. Joseph's is, there's a potential of 4 million students out there. But then when you start to make the pool smaller with certain GPAs and a certain type of student that you want to connect with, that number keeps getting smaller and smaller, and you may get it down to 300,000 or 200,000. So in order to tap into that audience, you really need to be using all your communications tools, and in particular, social media is a great one and an easy one to use.
Absolutely. I completely agree. And I think you bring up a good point of kind of the how the pool gets smaller and smaller as you're looking at kind of qualifications for your institution. But social is a really great way to be able to kind of help foster that fit at an institution too, that I think sometimes other pieces don't necessarily connect with students on in that same wavelength. Tyler, I think it's really interesting, and I know, Logan, you're in the same boat, but that both of you kind of came from admissions backgrounds, but now live more in sort of that marketing side. So, Tyler, I'll start with you. Do you have anything to add from your admissions background that you've seen really carry over to your new role?
Sure. One of the big things that I see with social and using social for admissions is that when I was standing behind the college fair table or presenting an information session, you can have that real one-on-one connection with a student and their family. You don't get that kind of a connection from an email marketing. I mean, great email marketing does that, but you don't generally get that. But with a social interaction with a prospective student, a parent, school counselor, you can, like Logan talked about at first, you can give that real personable, really authentic voice to the conversation that you won't get in certain other mediums. But you can have some fun with them too. You can make a joke about Star Wars. You can use a GIF if it, we've been playing with Internet High Five, where we send a little, students that are tweeting that they're admitted, we're sending them a little picture that has the outline of a hand, and here's a high five from our mascot. You can have that fun with them in social media that you generally can't do, or your upper administration won't allow you to do in a marketing piece or an admit letter or something like that. So that's something that I definitely see.
Yes. Yeah, there's a little bit more freedom to have a little bit of fun and be a little bit silly on social that I don't think you quite get in an email or print format.
Right, and students respond to that so much more than a colder, the please call us at this number, that kind of standard response. So.
It's very, very true. Actually, it's interesting. We're talking about kind of connecting with other institutions. I see, or not other institutions, other departments at your institution. I see some chatter over on Twitter that I want to ask a question related to after we're done with this particular question. But Logan, did you have anything else to add about, kind of why it's so important for admissions to really be paying extra attention to what's happening online?
Well, it's incredibly important for admissions because you can look at not just what students are saying, but what other schools are saying too, because everybody's all on this profile. So, let's take for instance BB-8, the little BB-8 that we have and the little fun that we're having. I've actually stole that idea, not necessarily from a university, but what some of my friends in higher education that do social media and web, what they've been doing with their little toys, and I figured, let's try this out with our audience. Let's see how it goes. And it was great. And I think social listening goes like farther beyond. It's also a place where you can get ideas on how to do things, and just get an idea of what your audience is interested in, which can inform a lot of the things that you do, from the emails that you send out to the stuff you put in your print materials to just what they're interested in. So yeah.
Absolutely. I love grabbing ideas from other institutions, other marketing entities. There's so much good stuff out there. So I agree. Melissa, you looked like you might have something to add.
Yeah, just in for social listening in relation to admissions. Also, I want to say that admissions is the front line. I mean, the counselors are speaking with the students. They're usually the first touch with the institution, and so. When you're looking at whether it's an admissions person tweeting or someone from marketing and communications, there needs to be that connect with, marketing and enrollment in order to represent your school to those students through the admissions office.
I do this. We talk to a lot of people a lot of times, and when someone tells me that their school, marketing and admissions don't talk to each other, I want to grab them by the shoulder and shake them hard, because that is like the most important connection ever, and not just in social, not just in education, but in business, in the world. You want your marketing people talking to your salespeople. It's very important, these things. You need to know what the brand is. Admissions counselors need to know what the brand is. student affairs people, they're marketing people too. They market the university. The things that the student affairs account posts on Twitter is important to prospective students, and it's something that everyone has to remember. And everyone has to think about whenever we're all marketers, every one of us, all of us, and we're all admissions people, all of us. It's
Exactly.
just how it goes.
Yeah.
You just have to remember that. You know, that rant that you post on your personal Twitter account can be seen by a prospective student. Just think about that. Just think about it. Sorry,
it's very true. It's okay. It's okay. You're allowed to rant. You feel very passionately about this, and I appreciate that. But it's so true, and I think it's something that we need to remember as counselors, as other people at the institution need to remember, and that our students that we employ need to remember too. I mean, I sometimes forget to explicitly go over every single detail of things to maybe not post negatively about to our student ambassadors, and then maybe see one or two things out there that you realize, oh my gosh, you know, this is representing our brand just as much as, if not more so, than our official accounts are putting out there. It's so true, and I really can back you up on that rant you just went on there, because it's so vitally important that admissions and marketing works closely together. If you are in a role in admissions, especially that you're on social, and you don't know your digital community manager for the institution, you need to remedy that right now.
Go make friends. Go make friends.
Yes.
Have coffee.
Yes.
We all have coffee houses we all have coffee shops on campus. Go get one.
Mm-hmm. It's so true. And actually, I get a kick out of the relationship that I have with our digital community manager, because her name is also Nicole. So we just get referred to as the Nicoles, and people know if it's social related, they're just directing it to the Nicoles, and it's great. So, you know, I feel passionately about this as well. Chris Dorso and I actually presented on this at High Ed Web last year to talk about admissions and marketing needs to work together. And a really great quote came out of that actually, what you said reminds me, that every single page on our website is an admissions page. And I know we're not talking about the web necessarily, but I think the same can be said in many ways of social, that anything that you're putting out there as an institution, no matter what department it's from, that's still kind of admissions, because that could be the first line, like you said, that students are going to see from us. So it's vitally important that people understand what the brand is and what the voice of the institution is if they're out there. And relevant to other
social media, a lot of institutions are having this conversation, which is great.
I hope so. Yeah. Yeah, definitely. If they aren't already, then they should be very, very soon. But I saw a really great conversation happening over on Twitter talking about referrals to other departments. So, you know, if a question comes in that that you're seeing, but really specifically kind of lands within another institution, how do you handle that? Do you have an online tool that you do it? Is it more one-off reporting? How do you manage that kind of information flow that you have coming in?
We use Sprout Social.
Sprout, okay.
We at UNH, we use Hootsuite, and we're an enterprise client, so we have 30 other departments on campus that are in Hootsuite, and we can assign messages directly through Hootsuite. The other thing that because not everyone on campus is in Hootsuite, though, we do use, we're using social meetups to meet other people that run social media on campus. And then I know I have a face and a name that we've gone, not to the coffee shop, but we've gone to a meeting space and we've met each other, we've shaken hands. I know that's who I email that tweet to and say, hey, can you help me answer this? So again, building those relationships. But Hootsuite is our social media management.
Awesome.
We use TweetDeck, and we put a lot of our data into our CRM. And we have a lot of meetings with a social media committee on campus with multiple people at the university that are responsible for communicating on social.
Excellent. I like that you kind of all brought up the overlap of in-person and online, because I do think there's value in being able to, like in Hootsuite, tagging it for somebody else to respond to, but not everybody works that way, and I feel like sometimes that department you need to connect with isn't necessarily even online or on social, so trying to get that information, you do kind of need to bring it offline.
That's right. I have contacts across campus that kind of help me with like administrative department kind of things, like advising centers, all those kinds of things. We also have we have two like levels of groups. We have our like social media administration team, which has admissions and student affairs, marketing, athletics, alumni. Like we're like the core group of folks. And then we kind of expand beyond that to an even larger group that has all of the social media folks around campus that run an account, because we have a couple hundred at least social media accounts across campus. And those folks, we all meet together like once a quarter and have a big like, let's talk about what's going on and how we can do better. And I usually have like two folks that are doing social really well, like have a discussion during those meetings and explain like, this is what we did cool. We did this and it was fun, and that kind of stuff. So.
Yeah, well, and there's a follow-up question on Twitter, so asking, does the tool solve the department referral issue? Do you have a relationship with those folks, and can you ensure follow-up? So I guess you all kind of answered that, but any more you want to speak to kind of how you've built that relationship and how you are entrusting others to follow up on these students so that it doesn't look like you're kind of not listening to what your students are telling you online?
I would say it's always a work in progress. When it comes to prospective students, we are doing pretty well. When it comes to current students and working with other people on campus for the student that's already on campus, that's definitely still a work in progress. And we do have internal Facebook groups where we have each class, so the class of students of the class of 2016, 2017, in that Facebook group where a lot of the communication happens. And there are individuals from around campus, from student life, from advising, from res life in those groups. So there's a representative from each area of campus.
Excellent. Excellent.
The relationship is always evolving too, but one thing that we'll do too is we'll respond to the student, authentically, quickly, and say, hey, we're not exactly sure, but we'll either tag the Twitter username for dining questions or transportation or whatever it might be, to let them know that one, that organization is on social, and two, let the organization know that, hey, we've responded to this student, but we're not comfortable answering it fully yet, so can you follow up further? And it's like, customer service with airlines, the good ones, they know that we're saying things about them online. They are following that, and they know that their reputation is at stake online. Not that it's like a threat to the other departments or anything, but they know that, this kid has been tweeted that dining will get back to them or something like that. So, it works. Yep. It works well that they know, oh yeah, I really need to answer that. So.
Yeah, we've worked really hard to build just really strong relationships with folks within each department. I have names and contact information for people that will contact me like very, very quickly. I'm not going to say we try to respond back with an answer to things within 3 hours. That's at least during business hours. That's our general attempted rule. Not always the case, but we try really hard. But we've built a pretty strong relationship across campus, and we have Facebook groups too, with folks in there to help answer questions. I also have a team of students that actually helps us monitor these kinds of things. We have about 15. They're called the Boulevard team. They're really awesome because you guys are listening. You're great. They do a lot of awesome stuff, especially in the Facebook groups, helping us listen, especially when we have situations at the university, we need to respond to, whether students having issues or students needing help or students, just having trouble.
Excellent. So kind of taking a step back at looking at the actual sort of time and resources put towards this task. I know it's kind of hard to set an exact amount of time, but how much of your job do you really feel like is spent listening specifically?
That's a hard question. That's a hard question to answer.
I know, and I apologize, but just generally.
Logan, you want to go? Go ahead.
Oh, well, I'd say I spend all day, except when I'm asleep, usually at least monitoring it to some extent. So
Amen.
this isn't a 8 to 4:30 kind of thing.
No.
I checked I have TweetDeck up right now and Sprout, and I'm just seeing what people are saying because that's just how it goes. When that's what your job is social media, that's what you do all the time. But like I said, I have help. The social media administration team, those folks that are in student affairs and admissions and all that kind of stuff, they actually help. They help monitor everything. My boss keeps an eye every now and then I have the Boulevard team helping. So if I could say what percentage of my job is that, I'd say like 500, 600% of it is because I have so many people helping me, I guess. But it's a huge chunk of it. It's not always obviously something that I'm like actively responding to, but I'm obviously always keeping an eye on what's being said. I check about once every 2 hours on the weekend, so that's about normal.
Cool.
Go ahead, Melissa.
I would say that I have a lot of help. So help is important. Our entire admissions staff have Twitter accounts, Twitter handles, and they are on there. They are responding to people. Sometimes a student may get multiple responses from us, and that's okay. And we certainly have dedicated staff in the admissions office that this is their job. So that's very helpful as well. But I would agree, I could spend a lot more time doing this, and I spend a lot on the weekends and at night and just checking. It's also interesting and it's also fun. So I feel lucky. It's not always work.
Yeah, I mean, I'll echo what Jared and Melissa have talked, or excuse me, Logan and Melissa have talked about. But we have 6 student interns that help with our management. They are constantly paying attention, and they love it. It's a passion of theirs to help prospective students and current students, so they help a lot. Ideally, I would be spending a lot more time plugged in, but being pulled into social strategy meetings and all these different things that you're pulled away from actually the listening portion of the job. You've got to rely on your team, on other departments that catch things, which is always really helpful, and they tune you in. But one thing that I do to try and alleviate some of that, if I know I'm going to have a crazy day, I'll try and have at least like the scheduled tweets and Facebook posts and all of that done ahead of time, but then start my day and then basically start my day over again right after lunch with about 20 minutes of social scoping. So looking through the hashtags, looking through everything. You try and catch it as it comes up, but making a dedicated time first thing in the morning and then right after lunch to go check again. As Logan said, you're all the time, so usually about half an hour before bed too, you're on your laptop or on your phone and you're again checking through again. But it's a constant. One of the things that I find now, having transitioned from the admissions office, is I have the luxury to do that. When I was in the admissions office and I was running our social presence from the admissions side, I also had 1,500 applications to read and all of these other things that were drawing on my time, being counselor of the day, that kind of stuff. It's so hard for admissions staff to dedicate that much time. But that's again where the partnership has to be between marketing, communications, social team, admissions officers to really fill in all of the gaps because it is just so hard. I don't envy my colleagues in admissions when they have it's school vacation week and they have 600 people visiting every day and they're supposed to be paying attention to questions on social. So we try and really beef up our attention during those super busy times to help them out too. So
you are preaching to the choir when talking about trying to juggle social and all the other admissions tasks. I completely agree, and that is why that relationship is so vital. So I'm glad we keep bringing it around to that, because I think it is so important that we have partners in marketing that we know can keep an eye out and listen to things. And I guess it was a little bit of a trick question that I asked you all. Maybe not a trick question, but having done this work as well from the admission side, I know that it is not a task that you can go, okay, from 8 to 9, I'm going to listen on social, and then I'm not going to look at it for the rest of the day. It just doesn't work that way. But it's a beautiful task that just never ends. So we talked a little bit about the admission that you're gathering online. Beyond moving it forward to the appropriate parties, that if others need to act on it, what do you do with the information you gather? Are you recording it somewhere? Are you putting together reports? How do you deal with that information you're taking in? I'm going to start with Tyler this time.
Sure. I think Melissa talked about it before with the CRM, but we have just moved into using TargetX and the Salesforce CRM here at UNH for our prospective students. That we're trying to get to. We're not there yet, but we're trying to get to the point where we can log this information like we would a phone call, an email. All of these conversations. We want to be logging those tweets, those questions that come in online, if we can identify the student and match it up and everything. So that's something that we're trying to get to that point, and I envy you, Melissa, for having that already set up. It is a beast to try and get that set up. But we also, I'm staying, really in touch with my colleagues in the admissions office, but we have a weekly communications meeting. It's a standing meeting that is between our public affairs office and our admissions office, and we'll free flow ideas back and forth, what's working, what's not. I'm also on the email chain for every marketing email, every communication that goes out, and that really helps when it comes to knowing this email's going out. Expect, maybe we forgot a key piece of information that we didn't even think about, but I'm going to get 60 tweets at 5:30 when the email drops, and the student says, "Wait a second, whatever. What's the time for this? Whatever it might be." But to be able to gather that information and then send it back to the admission staff to answer.
Definitely.
Yeah, the way we do things is a lot like Tyler. We would love to, or at least I would love for us to be able to put stuff into the system whenever we have a social connection with a student or something like that. That would be awesome. But some of the things that we do make that really, really hard. Mainly, we have a hashtag that we send out with students called Accepted to Belmont that is on the back of their admitted packet, and then they take a selfie with it, and that's great, except like 500 people do it at once. So it makes it really hard to respond to those, much less, log them. So that there's some, we make it hard for ourselves in some ways, but it'd be great if we could do those kinds of things. But it's as far as gathering information and doing report, I do reporting every week, kind of a how we did on social every week. I'm also working on a new kind of report that kind of helps give an idea of sentiment, like how our student body, prospective students feel about things. Still trying to figure out how that's going to work. And also thinking about, we also have reports, not reports, but meetings, communications meetings. We have now a next meeting where we talk about what's going on with our communications and marketing folks. And then for more immediate things, I have Slack, which is what we use with the Boulevard team to tell me kind of what they're seeing, what their opinions are, and what they think the student opinions are on things. So I have different levels of reporting and different levels of monitoring going on and connection between all the different folks doing stuff.
Awesome.
Yeah,
Melissa, I know you mentioned it earlier.
It's a hot topic for sure, especially when it comes to social media. I just want to clarify, we do track things in our CRM, but it's very manual. So there is actually someone typing in, or we've had fields created in Salesforce, and someone's actually uploading lists and typing things in to make sure that all those social interactions or social contest winners are being tracked. The students for Yield that join our Class of Facebook group, that list is manually being uploaded into the CRM. So we are doing a lot better of tracking, but it's a lot of time and effort. We are,
you should give that person a hug.
Working on implementing Marketo. Yeah, I know you all can relate. We are, as a university, working on trying to implement Marketo. We're in the middle of that right now, and really the focus of that is going to be is listening on social media and is having these conversations on social media, really generating leads and generating new students. And so that'll be a huge undertaking with my position this year, and it'll be very interesting to implement all of that and put tags and beacons and widgets and all of those things into our social media. I love all the nods, because when I talk like that with some other people, they don't get it.
What's a beacon?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't even. Anyway, sorry. I keep forgetting we're on a show where people can see me shake my head.
You're fine. No, it's so funny though, because we're all emphatically nodding with each other on so many of these points, and I'm curious about how many of our viewers are doing the same. I know we got some, at least one GIF and some other funny things happening over on Twitter, and I know it's technically pronounced GIF, but I prefer GIF.
The creator says it's called GIF.
GIF all the way.
I know.
GIF is peanut butter.
Yes. Exactly.
It's also a word that means go fast. But
anyway, we're going to get interesting tweets about that probably too. And as a reminder, instead of tweeting at us about how to correctly pronounce that word, maybe if you have any other questions, feel free to tweet them our way.
I literally just one pause real quick. I literally just got an all caps direct message from someone asking, wait, but really, I don't know what a beacon is. So, you want to explain what a beacon is?
So, well, it's just another term like spiders and widgets and beacons and tags, and it's code basically that you put on certain pages to do tracking.
Right.
Does that help?
It's also a thing that you can stick in a physical location that allows students to check in on Facebook as well, which is like Facebook beacons. Or iBeacons, which is an Apple product, which allows you to do the same thing, except with your iPhone. So there's lots of different beacons.
Yeah.
I'm learning all sorts of things today. This is fantastic.
Yep.
I have a big question that I think scares some more social media phobic and technophobic folks away from social, which is, how do you deal with negativity online? So I'm trying to go in reverse order, but I keep mixing myself up. So I'm going to go to Melissa first. How do you deal with these negative tweets, negative things that are being said about your institution?
Yeah, well, usually we handle negativity with, everyone has mentioned it here, with humor and empathy and reaching out to the person. And if it's high level negativity, then we take the conversation offline. But we use PR tactics too with responding to people. So, yeah.
All right. Yeah. Anybody else? Tyler, you want to add something to that?
Yeah, sure. It's always a struggle to know when to respond and when not to respond. Most of the time with certain negative, you're just going to have trolls. You're going to have people that where UNH's big rival is Maine, and there's a lot of kids that really like Maine hockey, and they rip on UNH's hockey, and that's fine. We don't need to engage, even though they tag our UNH admissions handle in the account once in a while. It's like, okay, we're not going to engage you because that doesn't matter in the grand scheme. But knowing when to respond and when not to respond, and then convincing sometimes the upper administration that you don't need to respond to every question that comes in when you know it's a leading question that is just looking for a platform, because when you respond to that person, they feel vindicated in sharing more negative things. So knowing when to and when not to, and when to take the conversation offline, like Melissa said. So
definitely, yeah. Don't feed the trolls.
Yeah.
Don't do it.
Well, we have a what do we call it? We call it a comment assessment that we kind of we use as training for folks around campus that kind of helps them understand what's a troller, what's a rager, what's a unhappy customer look like, what does a misguided customer look like, and we kind of create buckets that kind of help them understand like how to answer questions. I like to quote Scott Stratton because he's awesome. He's on the podcast. You can listen to him. He says that negativity in social media, every piece of it is an opportunity to make yourself look better than you did a few moments before you made the comment. So we try to reply when we can. Now, obviously, there are people that you can tell by looking at the history of what they've said to you and things like that. If they're actually a troller or a rager. But sometimes it's hard to tell, so I like to err on the side of what's the word? And we're not going to be able to cut this out because it's live. The word is crap, I lost it. Anyway.
Like disarming? Like I
there you go, disarming. Yeah. That's the word I'm looking for. Thank you. Anyway, disarming, being able to disarm them, or at least show them that you care. That's all people want. People who are complaining online usually want to feel that vindication. They want to feel like their issue is being, addressed. And once you do address that issue and you get them at least some sort of resolution, they can be pretty happy about it, even if it's just, hey, we don't know the answer to this, let's get back to you, or hey, follow us so that we can direct message you, and let's take this, let's talk about this offline where we have more than 140 characters to talk. So
yeah. That is a good point.
With what Logan said too, I don't want it to sound like you shouldn't respond. You absolutely should most of the time. Most are not trolls, but when you can respond to, the first thing that usually people will respond with is, "Oh wow, you heard me, thanks."
Yeah,
they're really excited about getting a response. So
even the meanest tweet, I've gotten the most horrible tweets, and then responded back, and they're like, "Oh, thanks
for listening.
Yep.
Thanks for that completely not like proportional happy response back."
Yeah, you never really know what to expect back, but I feel like more often than not it can end on a happy note and with a liked tweet or a retweet, or I've seen some really great responses to even the most annoyed tweets that have gotten some really great kind of engagement after the fact. So it's true. It's kind of in how you can handle it. We had a few questions related analytics on Twitter. In particular, Will asked, are there any good Instagram analytics tools? They used Iconosquare until Iconosquare started charging, which is not my favorite thing that Iconosquare has done. So does anybody have any recommendations in general for analytical tools, but in particular to answer that Instagram one?
It's very funny that Sprout came out with Instagram analytics around the same time that Iconosquare decided to arm and a leg for the free analytics that were one day and then were $500 a month the next. I'm actually happy with what Sprout's given me as far as analytics goes. I've been able to switch my reporting almost totally to that. There's some things I miss, like being able to see what's the most liked photo of all time. Though I can do it with Sprout, it's a little more painful to do than it is with Iconosquare. You just had it like right there. So Sprout is a good option if you're willing to pay for it. It's a lot cheaper than Iconosquare, but or at least I don't know what Iconosquare's pricing is now. I know they kind of wheeled back and then wheeled back again. But you know, we'll see. But I like Sprout. Sprout's good.
Cool.
Yeah, we use a number of things, but Social Bro is one. It's kind of a silly name, but we use Social Bro to monitor some Instagram statistics. It's not as in depth as Iconosquare was. We just made the decision to kind of bite the bullet with Iconosquare because we're seeing so much action with our Instagram accounts that we are willing to pay for the after the rollbacks, those pullbacks that happened. We're willing to pay for the Iconosquare for the amount of bang for the buck we're seeing on Instagram. So.
Yeah, I use everything everyone mentioned. The only one I would add is TweetReach. We use that for events.
That's nice.
Yeah, we've also been doing. We've been using Instaprint for open houses and Admitted Students Day, which Instaprint is when basically you use a hashtag for the event and everyone can print out their photographs. As long as they post something using the hashtag, then they get that photograph printed and they can take it home that day. And Instaprint provides great analytics for us about the actual event.
That's awesome.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, look them up.
I'd never thought about that.
Will
That's
do.
pretty awesome. That'd be great for a wedding too.
Yeah, lots of events use them. Yeah, I would say we're really excited. We're going to be using it for Admitted Students Day for the first time this year, and we might lean away from using it for open house just because students are not as invested as they will be for ASD, but it's really fun.
Sounds like a cool tool. Quick follow-up question for Sprout. Is there a nonprofit discount?
Yes, you get a pretty sizable discount for being education. So just tell them you're a university. Not that they won't get it when you actually email them, but you know.
There you go, Will. There's your answer. So check out Sprout. He was worried about the cost, so hopefully that'll get him a great discount. And as a follow-up on the tools question, does anybody use Tagboard?
Oh, I use Tagboard all the time.
Yeah.
They're awesome. I love them. We use them for our open house days. We call them preview days, and we use them for that other thing. Our kind of our admitted student day, which we call B Belmont Day. We put the tag board up on a really big screen, like really big screens during the welcome session, which gets students to start tweeting and Instagramming and all of those kinds of fun things. We use their presentation mode. It's really great.
Yeah, we've used Tagboard before, but we also use Hootsuite. We're a Hootsuite. I sound like a salesman for them sometimes, but they have a.
We all love our products.
Exactly.
We can't not love our products. We wouldn't use them if we didn't love them.
They make our jobs so much easier too. So, but we use their campaigns function that they just rolled out last fall, and we would love to use it more, but it is a little cost prohibitive the way that it's priced. So we use the Pro version instead of the full enterprise version. But yeah, we use that, and we also use Storify to track conversations and whatnot too, and then display. Like we have our new to UNH hashtag for those admitted students. We've been storing those in Storify, and it's a great way to keep track of those conversations too. So.
Absolutely.
I'll just give a shout out for Rebel Mouse then too. It's like Storify. And our hashtag Red Envelope campaign. I have to give that a shout out.
Yeah, I've used Tint before too, and I mean the costs can be a little bit prohibitive depending on the event, but Tint has some cool features as well that I've liked playing around with. So we're winding down. We only have about 10 minutes before the end of the hour, and I want to be cognizant of people's time, especially all of you, but also all our viewers if they have the day off, unlike myself. So while I wait to see if any other questions get tweeted in, I would love for each of you to just speak to kind of, I guess, broadly best practices in this area, especially if maybe there is an organization out there that hasn't really employed the idea of social listening into their strategy. So, what are the most important things to really be thinking about with this broader topic? And is anybody brave enough to go first?
I'll go first.
Okay, go ahead, Logan.
Well, my main takeaway, and I love having shows like this where I hear what other people are doing because it makes me feel vindicated because I'm doing things. I think the number one takeaway is you can't have just one person doing all the listening. They've only got 2 ears and 2 eyes. There is no way on earth that they can keep up with an entire internet's worth of social listening. So it's always good to have a team of folks, as big as you can have it, keeping an eye on what people are saying and what people are doing. I think that's probably one of my biggest things. Also, it's always handy to train people on how to respond to things so that you're not always the person who has to respond to every single thing. So that's always been big for me. Having lots of folks and having them well trained.
Awesome. Good advice. Anybody chomping at the bit?
I would agree on training, and that there are legitimate skills, just as there are legitimate skills for public relations and media relations. You are talking to the public and you're representing your brand, and so you do need to know the best ways to respond and when to respond and when to take something offline, and when to use humor and when not to use humor, and just not to take it too seriously, but know that you are representing the university at all times on social media, and so that is a responsibility that you should take seriously, but just don't take yourself too seriously.
Yeah, that I would absolutely echo that, because I always try and tell myself too that, I'm an alum of the university I'm working for, so I take things personally sometimes when it's, very angry or something like that, and you can't do that. You have to walk away. You have to take a deep breath. You always have to remember that you are the institution when you're talking online. So remembering that in your voice, and whenever those situations come up, when low-level staffer loses job over poor tweet or blah blah blah, you got to remember that could be you. So remember to ask somebody else's opinion, ask for that that team, to take a look at what your response might be, to say, well, I don't know if we want to push that message or whatever. So relying on your team to help answer questions is really important.
Really great advice from all of you, and I was nodding my head a lot. Those last few comments, it can be easy to kind of forget how important this job is sometimes. I guess not forget is the right word, but just always being aware of what you're putting out there is so important. And as an alum of the institution I'm on social for, I completely hear you on that, Tyler. It can be difficult to not take it personally sometimes. Yeah. You want to protect that institution. But thank you all for being on today's episode. I don't see any other tweets coming in, but all of you, we got one more question coming in from Liz. Would you rather have more people or better/more powerful tools for your social media team? We'll leave it with that as the last question.
That's a great question.
Yeah, it is.
I would say both, and lots of budget money.
$2 million. $2 million.
Yeah.
I could do it. I could do it with $2 million. That's a total joke. You could probably do it for a lot less than that. But it depends on what your goal is, I suppose. It really is, and it depends on how many accounts you want to have. The more accounts you have, the more listening you got to do. And still, even if you don't have an account, it's usually good to listen. We don't have a Pinterest account, but I go on Pinterest and see what people are saying about Belmont. Not that I have a place to respond, but I'm just curious how many people, are saying things about us there, because that's going to weigh my decision on to whether we should go into that network or not. Listening can't be everything. We have to also we also have to create content. We also have to, in my case, make videos, and social media just isn't my whole job. I have to be able to do other things too. Mm-hmm. I wish it was, but I also want to take a day off.
Right.
You know, I want to play Witcher on my PlayStation 4 for 14 hours, you know, and not have to look at social media because I have other people looking at it for me, you know. I need to be able to relax and do that kind of stuff. And that's why it's nice to have more than, you know, a few people. The more people, the better, because then I don't have to monitor social 19/7, you know, because I sleep for 6 hours a day, five hours a day. So, yeah.
I would say that tools are wonderful and can really help make the job easier, but when you're managing so many different profiles, I also run our alumni social media presence for the university, which is another different whole ballgame of talking to a 65-year-old on Facebook as opposed to a 17-year-old on Instagram. You've got to having tools is helpful, but having people to help with the listening, and you're not going to be able to pay attention all the time. So having another set of eyes is crucial. And tools can only do so much for you automatically before you need to have a person that writes out that carefully worded message to diffuse that angry person or that upset parent or whatever it might be. You need that human touch. So people over tools any day.
I do agree. I know I joked earlier, but the whole point of social media is that it's people talking in real time, real people. So.
Real people.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Wonderful question to end on, and thank you to those tweeting at us, thank you viewers, and thank you to my wonderful panelists. You are awesome, and I learned a lot from you, so thank you for that. And thanks as always to our program sponsors, Chegg and M. Stoner. Tune in to Admissions Live February 1st for an exclusive interview with NACAC Reads author Joshua Streckel. I'll be back February 15th with TargetX founder and chief evangelist Brian Niles. Stay up to date with upcoming episodes from Higher Ed Pros by subscribing to the newsletter at higheredlive.com. Thank you, everybody.